Yo guys, it's your boy Mythic J here with the season 38 tier list. So I have some exciting updates for this one. So some updates to methodology. So first of all, there's 8 divisions. I'm always taking the 8 division winners here. So this time it's going to be Leonard, it's going to be T-Train, it's going to be Quinn, it's going to be XCX, it's going to be Spark Spear, it's going to be Lorak, it's going to be Hansang, and it's going to be Change. So I'm always taking 8 winners, and then I'm adding 2 more. Okay, and basically, I want to take the 2 strongest around basically. And so the players that I've decided to focus on. So previously I was focusing on the players from Division 6, like Punchy and Ginny, who are pretty strong players. But in this one, Mustang, who's also quite a strong player from Anka's Wrath, he beat Ginny 5-0, and then Lorak beat Mustang 5-0. And Lorak's had some challenges once Ginny moved here, but he's been dominating the division. So rather than focus on those players who are just getting rolled anyways, I cited the mainstay, the triangle here that I'm gonna focus on are these 3 Omega whales in Division 1. If we were gonna use like an elo system here, these are 3 like very high elo players. They've all, they're taking turns kind of winning, but they have like all of the resources in the game. They're some of the biggest resources in the game. They're some of the biggest whales in the game, I mean. And so, and I think they work together and stuff too to build lineups. If you look, they're all in the same guild actually. And like Kenny, for example, he just won last week. I missed last week's snapshot, but or the last Champions Arena, but he has all of the new heroes. He has Lu Shen, Hanzo, and Epona at IW 600, testing all of them. They haven't necessarily worked out, but I think also the interplay kind of between the 3 of them as they jostle for like top position, I think they're definitely worth tracking. So these are the 10 heroes that I took, and I basically added all of their lineups to this spreadsheet. You know the drill by now, and this is what we came up with, and this is kind of the tier list here. So I actually did miss season 36. I was kind of busy, so and kind of demotivated honestly, because this season 7 player, this group 7 player Hansang, he's so much stronger than me that I'm just kind of like in building up, cube and resources mode, while not trying to like spend too much. So I'm a little demotivated. I missed the previous. So the blend for this week is going to be 80% focus on the most recent result, season 37, and then a 20% focus on the one from 2 seasons ago. Once season 38 comes in, it's going to be more of like a 70-20-10 split between the last 3 seasons. Okay, and if you remember the last tier list that I did, it was quite clean. I was quite happy with it overall. I did it by class, and there were some adjustments there. I set some pretty good rules on this, and so we're gonna go with like a similar process this time. And so this column is kind of blank for now. You can just think of it as blank. I just copied it over, and then this the previous tier is what the previous version of my tier list did. So with that said, let's get right into it and start updating this tier list for the new data. Okay, and one of the things I'm gonna do also is kind of track how good I was at predicting things. So if you look back over here, this was when I made the last tier list. So like Ninerzag, I remember going on a stretch and bringing like Poseidon up to an A, even though he had only shown 18%, 40%, and then he had just climbed up to a 70%, and I moved him up to an A, which means like he needs a blended like a blended 85 to like 90%. I think for SSRs, generally, I'm going to give them an S tier when they're like 85% plus or 90% plus representation. So there's not actually like that many changes from the previous time around. Nin YSS, I mean, they didn't change. They're going to keep their S tier. We're going to go ahead and move Poseidon up to an S tier. So now he's up to kind of 86% blended. 9 out of the 10 top winners on these teams ran the Leonard comp with the Poseidon, the Nin. I have an explanation of this comp, by the way. The Oberon, the Idun, and the Artemis. And so with 9 out of 10 running them and Poseidon's ISS cost being super low, although that's not like as big of a factor, Poseidon's going to move up to S tier. Now, if I compare him directly to, Leonidas, for example, he has 6% higher and, 1/10 of the ISS cost. So is that enough to say he's a S tier? Yes, I believe so. And then, Typhon, you are holding about 80% representation rate. That's going to still be an A for me. I still think Typhon is very strong. One thing I've noticed about this round of CA is that with the Leonard comp coming out, Odin has kind of fallen out of the meta, and people are actually like the teams are really starting to consolidate into like a few of the really strong teams. So I'm actually gonna make a video, a comp guide for Mythic Heroes as well after I'm done with this video. And one of the interesting things that's going to happen once I make this comp guide. So if you look through here, like I've kind of color coded all of the lineups that were doing like quite well. And it's basically like a few, like to give you a sneak preview of this video, it's basically only a few comps. It's the Poseidon, the Leonard comp, it's the Amaterasu comp, it's the Kirin Prometheus comp, and then it's like a Typhon, but I think, so it's like Typhon and Lucifer, but the versions with Faust actually do better. So like Typhon, Faust, Western Queen, Lucifer. That's kind of like the lineup that you need to be strong. But the thing that's going to happen when I make this comp guide, right, is like all of the heroes that you choose from there are taken out of the pool, right? Which means as I like build a green comp, I can take them out of the pool, leaving like a fixed number of heroes left in the game. And so once I remove all of the S tier comps from the hero pool, it's going to be like a fixed limited list of heroes remaining, and I think from there we can kind of theory craft like what are the best remaining teams to make. So I'm kind of excited for that video. But yeah, all of the top teams are kind of consolidating into like either very high usage here. So right here you see 5 tanks that are 80% plus, and then you see 5 tanks that are like basically 0, and then there's almost no one in the middle, right? Just like Hercules kind of is in the middle. So there's like this extreme kind of polarization that's happening because players are picking their best, like their very best teams. Okay, so here, I mean, there's not that much of a change to the percentages here. There's no real like metagame trends to track, so I'm not really gonna change any of these heroes. The only hero that's gonna drop here pretty heavily is Odin. I mean, I hesitate to drop Odin to a C. Like, if historically and just comparing everything, I mean, just look at these numbers, like 73, 70, 60, plus the ISS cost. So Odin's going to drop to a B here. He's really fallen, like, strongly out of the meta. You could even argue Anubis is better than him at this point. But with 1/3 the ISS cost and the historical, usage of Odin beat, he was like kind of better. I'm gonna bring Odin up to I'm gonna bring him down to a B, and then I'm kind of deciding on Athena here. Athena has like quite a decent niche because she's very like annoying. She's difficult to deal with. I know like some of the Group 6 players were also kind of experimenting with her. One second. C is potential. Yeah, well, I guess we'll bring Athena up to a C. At least like 1 out of 10 players is, thinks she has potential. So yeah, we'll go ahead and bring her up to a C. So those are the changes for the tanks. All right, so just to recap, Poseidon upgraded to S tier here. Odin reduced to B tier, and Athena upgraded to C tier here. All right, let's go into the fighter. All right, and so this is actually a previous version of the tier list. So I did eventually end up putting Kirin and Kirin and Freya into the S tier here, and we saw I did this based off their blended usages here. They were quite strong leading up to season 35. And so now there's been like, quite a few developments as you can see. Oda kept the S tier. He's still going to keep S tier. He's at 90%. He's kind of the best PvE hero in the game. Kieran is going to keep S tier as well, holding 88% as a DPSer. And then I'm gonna go ahead and bring Artemis up to an S tier too. So Artemis is I have a very soft spot for her. A lot of you probably do too. I thought she was like super cool when I first started playing the game. She's kind of like the Ashe of this game, like the kind of one of the most iconic units. And she's kind of like struggled for a bit, but now she's kind of like super in there as as you know like kind of one of the flagship SSR. She has a very strong niche here, so she's the anchor of, one of the strongest performing comps in the game, the Leonard, Ninnerzak comp, and then she has a very strong niche of dealing like very front load heavy burst damage. So she's gonna go to an S tier based off what I'm doing here. I think anything 85% plus that's SSR is going to be an S tier unit according to my definition. Susanoo is actually like quite close to being up to an S. Historically, he's like basically what I would say is like the perfect example of an A tier unit, like the kind of paragon ideal of what an A tier hero looks like. Um, but I do think you can distinguish between like Artemis and Susanoo, for example, um, and even Kieran and Susanoo, because Artemis and Kieran are both anchoring multiple like very important comps, such as Kieran Prometheus, Kieran Typhon. Artemis is only in that one comp, and so I think this makes sense for now. I realize it's a thin line, but it's what we're gonna go with. Oberon's gonna be moved up to an A, and Freya is going to move down to an A as well. So again here, Oberon is used in 80% of lineups. Artemis is used in one more, and Oberon, I mean, his SS cost is really low, but he's basically like only kind of good in that one comp. I guess you could say the same for Artemis, but there is like a split in their usage. There's also kind of a historical um, spread in favor of Artemis here. So I think that all that makes sense pretty much. Medusa has seen like no change. Her team hasn't really taken over the meta. She's quite good at PvE. She's gonna stay at B. Cam might start seeing a little more play. One lineup to keep an eye on is this. So I think Lorak is kind of the best player in the game. And he's running a pretty interesting comp. It's Marta, Cam, Lucifer, Hela, and Susanoo. So Susanoo and Cam are basically going like all over the backline. And then Marduk is kind of one-shotting things, while Lucifer kind of pops off too. So this is like, I noticed Lorak has always liked this Marduk lineup, like some kind of Marduk variant. So that's something to keep an eye on. But Cam's going to keep B tier. And again here, this is a little less spread because these three, some of them are holding on to them. But again here, you see like 7 fighters at the top used, and then a bunch of fighters at the bottom who are like barely used at all. I can't quite bring like Loki and Epona up to B, but I mean, C class means they have potential, and I think that's still kind of the case here. Arky has kind of fallen out of the meta entirely, and so has Apollo. FML, those are like the two champs that I've decided to invest in. One second. Just make sure I didn't do anything wrong with the tanks. Yeah, so the tanks, the unproven. Yeah, I think unproven is right for these guys, and Thor is definitely an F. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can't bring Epona and Loki up to B's based off this. Like, I can't say build Loki. I mean, Loki is starting to kind of show up a little more, but I can't say like build Loki over Cam, for example, you're supposed to kind of compare units like directly across from each other in tiers. Maybe I should start bolding the URs as well. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. I mean, Apollo and Arky. I mean, do we drop them to D? No, I don't think we can drop them to D because they're quite good in PvE as well. So yeah, so I'm pretty happy with this overall. Let's go on to mages. It's very interesting actually. So Amaterasu was not used in one of the teams. Alright, so the final hero in Group 8, Change, did not run Amaterasu in one of his lineups. I consider this an extreme aberration. Amaterasu, probably the best hero in the game still. So Prometheus is going to move up to an S tier now. He was used in 100% of lineups. His blended is up to 98%. And his Kirin Prometheus comp is doing okay. Lilith, so you know, if I have to make a tier between the two, I do think her lineups are like kind of performing um, worse than every other lineup. Like this Lilith, Oda, like all of these variants are um, not performing that great, but she still has like very high representation. If we were gonna say like SSR is 85% plus, then we would say like UR is like 90% plus. Um, so she's almost right there, but I do think she's also like a really old hero. I think a lot of the whales have her already. I mean, she is being paired with like Neff and stuff. Um, I also think there's a pretty clear divide between her and Prometheus and Amaterasu. So she is going to uh, not be moved up. She's going to stay at A tier. I also need to add a section for Horus, it looks like. Okay, so I did add Horus here. So yeah, just moving down the list. Neff, I mean, I can't bring a 60% usage up to an A quite yet. But the thing about mages, as you can kind of see, is they're very, what's the word, split. There's a lot of shitty ass mages, and the two S tiers are like URs. So I mean, and the thing is, like, you kind of do want to use your resources, right? Like, if you're getting a bunch of crystals for mages, I mean, you kind of want to use them, um, which puts Neff in kind of an interesting spot. Like, I'm gonna leave Gabriel at B here. Even okay, you know, my hunch is Neff usage is just like starting to kind of creep up a bit here. If I look at fighters and tanks, like, what's the lowest A tier that I've given? Like 74% for an A tier. So that would mean that S is more like in the 90-85% range. So then uh, A tier is more like in the 65 to 85 or so range. Something like that, like the 70 to 85. If I'm just gonna chunk them off um, into like 15 to 20% intervals, then yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and like go with a trend here. Also, Neff, like her alt is quite good. It's like a, what's the word? It's like a suppression effect. I'm gonna go ahead and bring her to an A because I don't want to bring Gabriel down to a C. I think Gabriel also has like a pretty solid niche. So she's gonna stay there. Gabriel's gonna stay as a B. Um, Izanami, I think. I mean, honestly, they're just all like kind of trash. But like, is Izanami as bad as like? I mean, whatever. Like honestly, it doesn't really matter. In fact, I just want to make sure the visual is like split well between them. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter that much. Um, this category is for unproven versus potential versus trash. Titania, I don't know why I had her as trash. Um, I mean, let's just balance it out a little bit because it's quite depressing. We'll bring Titania up to a D. I've talked about her before, but she does have like some, theoretical potential as like a physical annoyer. And then Horus. Okay, so when Horus first came in, because of how shitty these mages look, as you can tell, and because of the because of the what's the word? Um, yeah, because you need to use resources somewhere, and because of all that, I started him off as an A tier. It looks like not a single player has used him. I haven't checked for season 36. Maybe people used him in season 36, but no one has used him. I still don't think he's quite like D tier. He might even have potential, and this, uh, this C category, the whole name of it is potential. So we're gonna go ahead and bring him down to a C tier. He's still kind of new. Excuse me. He's still kind of new, and so no one's really had a chance to build him. If you went and blew your wad on him, because I said he's A tier, I apologize. But hopefully I don't think it's still too late for him. I would certainly not say that the door is closed on him yet. So let's kind of see how he develops. But he's going to drop 2 tiers down. And then finally, let's go to support. So I think there should be some exciting developments in support here. So we got Lotion, the new hero. I don't know why she's pink right here. But let's go ahead and do that. Okay, cool. Okay, so the S tier heroes, they're still at 100%. My Queen Hela is back. She's gonna get upgraded. I don't know if I think you guys got this from most of my videos, but I've always believed in her. I've always kind of ranked her, higher than she necessarily deserves. But yeah, she's gonna get an S tier. Idun is also gonna get an S tier. She is 90% usage, and she's been holding that pretty strong as a strong niche. Naga is going to get an A tier as a 78% representation. Her representation is just starting to move up. Her best team is that Prometheus team with Kieran and Leonidas, it looks like. Faust is going to stay as an A tier, so 70% is going to represent like kind of the bottom end of that range. Aladdin usage is dropping a bit. I think the key question with Aladdin, right? Like the group 37 meta is evolving in like a pretty kinky direction because T-Train, the top player, basically just copies Papa for all of his lineups. And so everything Papa does, T-Train kind of copies. So then they end up like, the meta gets kind of warped for that. But basically, I think the real key with Aladdin, and like one of the, I was talking about this lineup guide that I'm gonna work on, but like one of the really big things about Aladdin is like that we just don't know because we just haven't been able to see is how close to the so you know how the Amaterasu comp usually has Western Queen, but if you replace Western Queen with Aladdin, how strong is that comp, right? Because then you would theoretically open Aladdin for Western Queen, and then you would bring Western Queen into the Typhon Faust Lucifer comp, right? And then that could be another like high tier anchor there. So I think like that's really the question here. And we see in season 37, 3 out of the 10 teams ran them, but one of the players that decided to run it is a Quinn, I believe. So Quinn is also running the Aladdin comp, and then like Lorak is just using the standard Western Queen build. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting because he's so niche. Like for example, if I was gonna say between him and Cassandra right now, like which one are you gonna build? I would say Aladdin's definitely better than Cassandra at this point in the meta. So like I'm gonna leave him as a B tier for that exact reason, which is that if he can reasonably replicate Western Queen's performance in the Amaterasu Cup, then that means that the game theory optimal, like the robot AI perfect version of a Mythic Heroes lineup planner, would always bring Aladdin in and then move Western Queen somewhere else. So on that premise, I'm going to leave Aladdin as a B. despite only being 32% and dropping. and and then Joan is going to drop to a D. Dionysus is also going to drop to a D. Now Dionysus is a little more important because he's good for guild bosses and stuff like that. Let me just check the distributions here. There's more C's here. Yeah, Dionysus is kind of close. I think like in general, but now I mean he's fallen out of PvP completely. But I mean he was always kind of destined to do that anyways. Yeah, he's kind of in his own tier. Well, yeah, sure. We'll just go ahead and do that. Aphrodite, yeah, I'm still gonna leave her at D. She's not like really an F tier hero. Look at these support spreads. It's like every support in the game is basically being used. And then Lo Shen. Okay, so Lo Shen's a new hero. I'm gonna make a new hero video on her. I've already reviewed her kit. I do think she's quite interesting, and I think she's definitely like better than Cassandra. She's definitely like worth investing more than Cassandra. Is she worth investing more than like Naga and Faust? Like that's kind of a big ask. I think her value right now to me, based on like theory crafting her kit and like seeing how she's being used, um, I think she goes like between B and A. Mm. And support is super log jammed, and I've been like guilty of overhyping kind of newer units in the past. So I'm gonna go ahead and put her in as a B tier for now, and then see how that goes there. Okay, so now putting it all together here, um, putting it all together here, the list of changes here. So Prometheus moved up to S tier. Hela moved up to S tier. Adun moved up to S tier. Artemis, Poseidon moved up to S tier. Naga, Oberon, and Neph moved up to A tier. Freya moved down to A. Lo Shen comes at it in as a B. Odin and Horus were downgraded. Athena was upgraded to a C. A few C's were dropped to D, and then Titania was brought to a D just for funsies. So I'm gonna take that off screen and build this tier list in front of you. One last one I forgot to mention. So Persephone. So she's still at like 0% usage. No one's using her. I still think she's better than all of the D tier mages, even though no one's using her. Her niche of like reducing physical damage, no one seems really interested in that. Maybe there's too much magic damage going around, but I'm still gonna keep her as a C tier here. So Lo Shen here moves to B. Naga Idun is going to move up to S tier where she deserves. Hela is going to move up to S tier as well, and Naga is going to move up to A tier. Prometheus is going to move up to S tier. Odin is going to drop. Poseidon is going to move up. Artemis is going to move up. Freya is going to move down. Neph is going to move up. Oberon is going to move up. Dionysus is going to move down. I'm actually just going to leave Titania into F tier, just to create an even balance between the two. Okay, so yeah, I mean, let's do like a little sanity check here of all the S tier heroes. So one of the things about the S tier heroes is like, I do want, you know, a non-UR option for some, you know, a lot of these. So like, okay, Ninnerzag, I mean, you know, 100% usage, right? I mean, she's super good. What can I say? YSS 90%, Poseidon 90%, very low ISS costs. I mean, this is 1 UR, 2 SSRs. You know, what can I really say? The SSRs, these are both 85% plus usage here. You know, low ISS costs, like what can I really say? Lucifer and Oda are both 90% plus usage. The two mages are both like 100% usage basically. Tangan, Morrigan, and Western Queen have been 100%, for basically non-stop. Nua's like 98%. Idun and Hela are both um, 90%. I mean, so here I guess is like the first place where I could kind of say, okay, some of you are going back to A tier, but mm, I mean, yeah, I don't think it's really fair to, I mean, if you guys have been following too, like I've been trying not to put Idun into S tier, but I mean, she's just, like that damn good pretty much. Um, like they're definitely a cut above the Naga, Iset, and Faust range here. Um, and so this leaves like four kind of SSRs that you just need to build crystals for. Um, I mean, if I had to pick between these, I would bring Hela and a Dune kind of down, I guess. Mm, I mean, I guess you could say all the other ones are like 100%, and a Dune is like 9 of it. All right, I'm gonna hate a little bit. This is kind of breaking a rule, but like there's such a logjam of support here. I'm gonna bring a Dune back down to an A. I do think like um, she is like on paper or whatever you want to call it. I mean, she's definitely weaker than Western Queen, definitely weaker than Morgan. And then I think if I had to pick between Hela and Idun, I do think Hela, because of her passive, is like stronger overall. Plus, I think Idun and Naga both being green. Um, they've always historically been kind of like swappable for each other. So yeah, this is gonna be the final tier list for season 38, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and thanks for